A mini French Avenue fragrance haul. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and today I'm going to share with you my very first impressions on the few French Avenue scents that I added to my collection just a few days ago. They're called Eclair Affair, Cocoa Morado and Divin Asylum. Two of those scents that I'm going to take a quick look at in today's video are pretty new to the markets. They're Eclair Affair and Cocoa Morado, and the other one, Divin Asylum, has actually been around for a while. And I'm going to start with the one that to my nose feels the most, the more feminine one. One of the three fragrances is pretty masculine, the other one is unisex, and this one is pretty much a feminine scent. It's called Eclair Affair, it comes from French Avenue. It comes really nicely packaged. You get this outside sleeve, then an inside box, and then this is how the actual bottle looks. It has an interesting design. There's another fragrance in this line that looks slightly darker. I still don't have that one. The important things here, concentration is EDP and the bottle size is 100 milliliters. I'm not going to go over the full presentation of this one. I'm going to keep that for a future full review of the fragrance itself. I'm going to show you the spray in action. It's a little bit on the weaker side, but that may not be a bad thing because this is a very sweet and a very potent fragrance, especially in the opening. Now, Eclair Affair is very heavily inspired by Bianco Latte, and this also smells very similar to one fragrance from the brand of Lattafa, which is called Eclair. So you can pretty much see that French fragrance world and French Avenue are taking a jab at at Lattafa for one more time. They've done that in the past as well, and this is a very sweet and a very feminine scent, and opens up with a heavy blast of a strong caramel note. There's a bit of a, not a bit, but quite a strong coconut note with this fragrance as well. Some vanillic sweetness and also a hint of florals somewhere in the background, but it's all about that the sweetness, that caramel, vanillic and coconut sweetness. When this goes into the dry down, it also in the opening feels just a hint bit lactonic, at least to my nose, something that I don't necessarily appreciate that much. I'm not a huge fan of fragrances that have a sort of a milky note in them, but luckily in here it's not super strong, so I can tolerate that. On the dry down, it still remains a very sweet fragrance. You lose some of those florals from the opening, and on the dry down they're replaced by a musk note. So it's quite a musky fragrance on its dry down. Maybe there's a hint of some honey note as well in here, but basically this is a very sweet scent, and that makes it leaning heavily to the feminine side. And definitely this smells close to Bianco Latte. It also smells close to the fragrance from the brand of Lattafa, which is simply called Eclair. Again, I think this is very feminine. All those impressions that I'm sharing in today's video are pretty initial impressions, but this seems to have a pretty good performance, has good longevity and projects quite nicely, especially in the first about 1 hour. This is quite sweet and quite strong. So performance wise, this seems to be a good performer, at least from my initial impressions. Price wise, a little bit on the expensive side, but it comes from the brand of French Avenue. So usually this, from what I've seen online, this goes for about 40-45 euros. So you can think of it something like $50 to $60 range in the US. And this is definitely a fragrance that leans to the feminine side, and definitely it's so sweet that at least from my initial impressions, this seems to be a strictly cold weather fragrance. Now let's move on to the other fragrance, the second one that I'm going to take a look, and that's called Divin Asylum. This is a clone of Elysium Pour Homme Parfum from Roja Dove, and it's another one of those very impressively packaged fragrance, presented fragrance. You get an outside box, then you get an inside box. It's a very sort of lavish and luxurious presentation. Again, I'm not going to go too much into details about the presentation itself. I'm going to keep that for a future video, but again, the important things here is the concentration is EDP and the bottle size is 100 milliliters. And then this is the way that the bottle looks. somewhat similar, you could say, to the original fragrance from Roja Dove. Now, there's a bit of controversy surrounding this fragrance. There's some rumors circulating online. First of all, this is not a new release. I think this was released for the first time a couple of years ago by Fragrance World and French Avenue. Then it disappeared from the markets, then it reappeared again. I've seen a lot of people complain about the performance of the newer batches. The older batches, at least from what I've read and seen online, seems to be better performance compared to the new ones. Now, my batch is from early 2024, so it's one of those slightly newer batches, not a 2023 batch. I'm going to show you the sprayer in action. It's a pressurized sprayer, something that I always like from fragrances. All around, the quality of the presentation and everything else is top notch, to be honest. And now onto the scent of this one. This is a freshy blue type of scent that has a bit of a mature factor. It opens up with a lot of freshness. There's some lime, some lemon, some grapefruit in the opening of this one. This also pretty quickly develops a sort of a soapy vibe when you spray it, but it also has a bit of a green touch somewhere in the background, feeling a little bit balsamic, a little bit woody, and maybe having a rose note. There's some ambery sweetness with this one. It's quite a complex, fresh, blue type of scent, and it actually smells of a really nice quality and smells really nice in the air. And the quality of the scent, I'm going to say that again, seems to be very, very impressive. A very, very nice opening, as long as you don't mind fresh fragrances that are a little bit more on the mature side. On the dry down, it will develop even stronger soapy note. It will become a little bit woody, definitely becomes musky, and you'll get a little bit more ambery and vanillic sweetness on its dry down. But all around, this is a fresh and easy to wear fragrance, blue fragrance that has a bit of a mature factor. Again, quality is really nice. As far as the performance, at least my initial wearings, I given it I think 2 wears, and it seems to be a little bit above average when it comes to performance. It's not super strong, at least from my initial impressions, but I'm going to give this one some time just to see if with a bit of sitting around the performance will improve. Definitely, again, not a beast, but not as a weak fragrance for sure as well. Price wise, a little bit more expensive again, but keep in mind everything here is from French Avenue, so they tend to be a little bit more expensive. So we're talking about around about 40 to 45 euros, so about $50 in the US. And this is a very versatile masculine fragrance that can be worn pretty much all year round, but again has a bit of a mature factor. And now let's move on to the last one that I'm featuring in today's video, which is called Cocoa Morado. And this is one of the newest hyped up beasts from the brand of French Avenue. Again, you get a pretty nice presentation that looks a lot similar to the ones that you'll get with Liquid Brune and Azure Oud. And the bottle design is also, again, pretty much the same as those two fragrances. Also, apart from the fact that this has this sort of an velvet or purple color on it, accent color. Other than that, the presentation is very similar to those other fragrances. This is a clone of Maison Crivelli's Oud Cadenza, and it's seen quite a lot of hype in the past few months. I think it was released late last year, and I just recently got a bottle of this one. Again, I'm not going to go too much into the presentation. Bottle size here is 100 milliliters, and the concentration, I think, is supposedly, yes, it's EDP concentration. The sprayer in action. Sprayer is a little bit on the weaker side, and this is a very interesting scent. Now, when you look at the note breakdown of this one, it's a very complex note breakdown. It has probably like, I don't know, 20 notes listed, maybe even more than that. And there are quite a lot of sweet notes listed with this fragrance. There's a sugar note, there's a vanillic note, a caramel note, a dates note, an ambery note, a tonka bean note. And if you look at that note breakdown, you may end up thinking that this is a very gourmand scent that will turn out to be very, very sweet. But to be honest, that couldn't be further from the truth, actually. The opening is very spicy. It's very heavy on a saffron note. There's some cinnamon, there's some nutmeg, which is also quite strong. Some peppery notes. This feels very, very spicy in the opening, with a hint of agar oud somewhere in the background, a hint of some leather, and maybe just a hint of some sweetness. So looking at the note breakdown, you may end up thinking that this will be a super gourmand, super sweet fragrance, but it actually is not. It's actually more spicy, more dry, and way less sweet that you may end up thinking when you look at the note breakdown. On the dry down, this remains a little bit spicy, but on the dry down, the agar oud note becomes a little bit stronger, the leather note becomes a little bit stronger, and it will develop just a hint of sweetness, more sweetness compared to the opening, but still even on its dry down, late dry down, this is in no way, shape or form a sweet fragrance. Maybe also feels a little bit musky. That's pretty much it about the scent profile. It's quite a complex fragrance that's definitely more for the seasoned noses out there, because this just smells complex and it smells a bit challenging, to be honest. Keep that in mind. This is a clone of Oud Cadenza. Now, unfortunately, I've not tried Oud Cadenza yet, so I cannot tell you how close this is to the original fragrance. The other thing that is a little bit controversial about this particular fragrance is the performance. Now, a lot of people claim that this is a beast of a performer. To be honest, I've not had the same experience. Now, keep in mind, this is a brand new bottle. I've opened it up a couple of days ago, but so far this seems to be more on the, let's say it, the good performing side rather than being an absolute beast. Maybe I'm going nose blind to the scent, I don't know. Maybe the bottle needs a bit of maceration, or maybe some people are simply hyping it up to be a beast of a performer without this actually being a beast of a performer. But on my skin, this has been giving me about 7.5, 8 hours of performance, with good but not super strong projection in the first hour and a half up to 2 hours. So keep that in mind. Again, I'll keep testing this one out to see if the performance will improve. I don't know if it's down to my nose, I'm going nose blind or whatever, but this definitely doesn't seem to be a super strong performing scent as other people are claiming that this is. Price wise, again, a little bit more expensive. At this current time, I think costs somewhere between 45 to 50 euros, so close to the $60 mark, but that's to be expected. It's a brand new release with that seeing a lot of hype. Versatility wise, definitely a cold weather fragrance, definitely a unisex scent that maybe leans a little bit to the masculine side, but again, keep in mind that this is a little bit more on the challenging side. So guys, in today's mini French Avenue fragrance haul, I shared with you my very initial impressions on 3 new and not so new scents from the brand of French Avenue: Divin Asylum, Eclair Affair, and Cocoa Morado. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.